Hi everybody, it's Professor Levi Allen and I'm so excited to talk to you about the Rococo period and fashion and femininity. So as you've noticed from your modules, the Rococo is really looking at kind of this softness and light. It's charming, it's meant to charm all of your senses. But if you have this very light, frivolous, fashionable, feminine art, what does a woman artist get to say about this? How can you shape your own image? So in this video, we are going to explore two female artists who do exactly that. So the first artist we're going to explore is Rosalba Carriera. She is a Venetian Rococo painter. She becomes incredibly famous during her lifetime and her impact is immense. She really popularizes this miniature medium in portraiture during the 18th century. She's especially known for her pastel portraits, and pastel is like chalk or oil pastels you might have used when you were little. So it's seen as kind of a messier medium. It was not as highbrow as using traditional oils, but she helps create and kind of change the commentary around what this medium is like. So she's really transitional and important. She was born to a lawyer and an embroiderer / lace maker. So from a really young age, she was encouraged to create and she started to have a following. She started to create using snuff boxes. So when people went on these grand tours of Europe, they would get snuff boxes. And if you're not familiar with what one is, you can see it above me. They fit in the palm of your hand and they're meant to hold snuff or tobacco so you can carry it around with you. Because it's the Rococo period, they're very beautiful. They're super elaborate, inlaid. The workmanship and the craftsmanship is again that charming, feminine, fashionable style. So Rosalba started to create portraits. So she would paint portraits and have them put into the lids of these snuff boxes. So as these young men were going on their grand tours, they would get a portrait of themselves painted or perhaps of their wife, or young women would go. She becomes super famous and people actually, as they are doing their grand tour, stop and see her in her studio to have their portrait created. It's kind of like this tourist thing that's happening. So a little bit more about Rosalba. Eventually she moves to Paris. She becomes so popular, her two sisters have to start working underneath her in her own studio, executing these portraits because she wants to get them out as fast as possible to her clients. And she really changes the way that Parisians start to look at accessibility in art and what they can own. It's no longer just for the monarchy. It can be for anybody to have fine portraiture in something. And that's what pastels kind of help too. It makes this medium much more accessible and much more friendly, which will lead to some of the democracy that you're going to see towards the end of the Rococo period. So the piece I want to discuss with you is the portrait of Maria Theresa, the Archduchess of Habsburg. So the Habsburgs were this large family group that ruled over most of Europe at one point. They are the last of the Holy Roman Emperors. So when Charlemagne first started, to Archduke Ferdinand right before World War I. So they have a lot of influence. They're very important people in Europe. So this particular piece by Rosalba, I want you to notice it's really soft and elegant color palette. These are these very delicate pastels. They're going to capture that Rococo hallmark. It's feminine. There's a lot of subtlety. It's really light, right? Like her skin looks so luminous, and partially that's the pastels, which give it that nice softness, almost that airbrushed quality to it. If you were imagining a filter you could put on yourself, but it also gives her kind of that glow. So you can see the kind of this also with the use of pastels, like that fur looks like something you want to touch. It looks very textural. There's a real soft, elegant quality to the lacework. The jewels have kind of this dull shimmer. It makes everything look a little bit more real. And this is a really powerful woman. So as I mentioned, Maria Theresa is a Habsburg Archduchess. She's super important in politics. But it's a very intimate setting, right? Like you look like she's kind of going to have a conversation with you. You don't think that she's standoffish and you're not going to be able to chat with her. She's got a soft smile on her face. Her eyes are gazing at the viewer, and she looks engaged in a conversation. So it's this one-on-one intimate moment, which is the beauty of Rosalba's work, is that she creates a time when these grand people get a chance to have a more intimate setting. So you're invited to join in this conversation with her. That's what the Rococo is again, right? That intimate conversation, that kind of gentle in home, but with a lot of glamour. Like this is a conversation you're having at a really fancy coffee shop. This is not a conversation you're having in your sweatpants. So she really is bringing this idea of portraiture to prominence. So when you look at her work, I want you to think about that as well as kind of this shift of the female gaze and how we're creating these intimate settings in the Rococo period. So this is your pause. So pause if you need to in the video. I know it's getting long. Write down anything interesting that you've learned, items you want to explore. If you want to share on the discussion board, there's a prompt for this video that you can add in and share to. There might be some bonus points in it for you. So take a moment, take a breath, pause, and then come back when you're ready and we'll talk about our next artist. So the next artist we're talking about is Élisabeth Vigée Le Brun. She is one of my favorites. She has a really fascinating history, so I'm excited to share her with you. She is actually the portrait painter to Marie Antoinette. So if you have any pictures of Marie Antoinette in your head, outside of what you've seen on that television show, she's the one you're thinking about. She painted more than 30 portraits of the Queen and her family. So she is massively important during the Rococo period. She is the patron of most of European aristocrats. She, actors, writers, she was elected to art academies in 10 cities, which doesn't sound like an amazing thing, but if you think that's almost like being a miniature celebrity around the entire world at a time when there's no social media, so it's huge. She's a huge influencer in art. Contemporary artists will view her as one of the greatest portraiteurs of her time, so she's a true portrait artist. She created over 660 portraits and over 200 landscapes. So that is an immense body of work. She started painting professionally when she was in her early teens. She wanted to escape her stepfather. She didn't have the best relationship with him. So to do that, she thought, oh, I'll just get married. I'll marry another artist. But a lot of people were trying to caution her to not marry him. He was a womanizer and a gambler. He left her in dire straits all the time. But she just wanted to escape so badly, and she was a little headstrong. So she thought, like, I'm just going to leave. So this is her self-portraits. There's some things I want you to notice when you look at her. Her outfit is perhaps not as rich as some of the ones we've seen, definitely not as elaborate as the one you just saw of Maria Theresa, but it's got a lot of fabric, and that doesn't seem like a big deal, but fabric is expensive. So she's showing herself in this idea of wealth. Look at her amazing hat with the feather plume and the flowers. Her hair is loose and flowing, but she's holding a palette. So her iconography in this is, I am a painter. So what is important to her? What does she want to show? What is she looking at the viewer for? She's showing you what she values and what she wants to be known by, and that is being an artist. Vigée Le Brun is really going to try to focus her work on showing her subjects in the best possible light. So when she's working for Marie Antoinette, she tries to show her as very relatable to the public. You'll see this in your module. She travels extensively, and you're going to see that in her work. There's a lot of different references to other older artists, but the one picture I want to talk about is Anne Pitt. This is Anne Pitt as Hebe, and you might be wondering, okay, I'm getting my portrait painted, I'm spending all this money. Why would I want to look like somebody else? And why would I want to be represented as a Greek god? Well, that was really common in the 1700s. Think of social media and how people curate their look on social media. Rococo portraiture was also about curating how you are represented. It's looking at what do you want to be known as? What are your influences, similar to iconography you see in other things, but I want to present a particular image through my fashion, through my portraiture, through my identity itself, and looking at how this works. So Anne Pitt was a baroness, and she becomes a huge mover in English politics. And when she had this portrait painted, she picked Hebe because she is the Greek goddess of the fountain of youth, and she's the daughter of Zeus and Hera, so really powerful parents, and she represents all that is the most youthful gracefulness, charm, and this idealized feminine youth. So why not be that for your persona, right? Why not be that's what you're promoting to everybody? So she's holding her cup from the fountain of youth. She's dressed in kind of this clothing that reminds you of the ancient Greek world. It's very flowing, but think back to the portrait you just saw of Vigée Le Brun. She had that same flowing, gorgeous fabric on her. Her hairstyle, though, is very Rococo. Her skin is super luminous. That was really important in the Rococo period. And this concept of youthfulness. This portrait took 7 sittings to create, which is not very long. What I want to draw your attention to is in the lower corner, there is an eagle drinking the fountain of youth's water. So that eagle was based on a real eagle. Vigée Le Brun had an eagle come into her studio with a handler, and she painted it from life because she wanted it to have realism as well. So it truly was this concept of identity and what Anne Pitt wanted to create in her image. So she's helping tremendously with this idea of staged identity and how my clothes and my look all create this persona that I want to be. So while Rococo portraiture is about showing how you want to be seen, it's an image with intention. And that's what Vigée Le Brun and Rosalba Carriera do so well. It's the posing, it's the setting, it's symbols to tell a story around those people in front of them. So for this extra credit, you get to be the artist and you're going to tell a story. So I want you to pick somebody you admire. It can be a real person. It can be a fictional character. It can be a family member. It could be a good friend. So if you're commissioned like Vigée Le Brun or Rosalba Carriera, what kind of portrait would you create for them? What story or identity are you going to show for them? So what would they wear? What is their posing like? Is it intimate like the portrait of Maria Theresa? Or is it like they are represented as somebody else like Anne Pitt? What does their pose say? What does their expression convey to the viewer? What are they surrounded by? Are they in a thunderstorm? Are they out in the jungle? Do they have a ton of books with them? Are they shown with something super important to them like a palette? What do you need? You're designing that mood and that message just like Rosalba Carriera and Élisabeth Vigée Le Brun did. So you can describe this in a sketch. You can take a picture of the person with all of the staged elements. You can write this. You can do it as a collage. It needs to be not necessarily polished, but detailed. Think like a portrait artist and use that fashion and setting to shape your meaning. There'll be a prompt and instructions on the discussion board of Canvas. This is optional for you to do for some extra credit. So I hope you enjoyed this exciting look at these 2 artists, and I look forward to discussing our next ones with you.